Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome, it is episode number 69 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. I am your host, Catherine Eardley, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club. The Resilient Retail Club is my membership group for product businesses. And if you go to resilientretailclub.com and use the code 10podcast, that's 10podcast, then you can get £10 off your first month. I'm so excited. Today is Thanksgiving Day. If you're listening to the podcast on the day that it goes out, it is a big day in the US calendar. So some of you may know that I'm actually technically a US citizen and my husband is American as well. So we always celebrate this day as a family. It is also St. Catherine's Day. Just want to throw that fun fact in there. Happy St. Catherine's Day and happy Thanksgiving. But of course, with Thanksgiving, the next day is Black Friday. So if you're listening to this, then we are about to hit that festival of consumerism known as Black Friday. I wanted today's episode to be something a little bit different, so I have asked Veronica from Work for Good to join me. Work for Good is a fantastic platform. I definitely recommend that you check it out. That makes it really, really easy for small businesses to make donations to charities. I was absolutely amazed by some of the statistics that Veronica shares in this episode about charitable giving and how it's different between individuals and businesses. So give it a listen and maybe, who knows, it'll inspire you to try charitable donation as a promotion this festive season. Welcome to the podcast. Do you want to start us off by introducing yourself and telling us what you do?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Catherine, inviting me along. So I am Veronica Bamford-Dean and I am Managing Director of Work for Good. And Work for Good is a small business. Well, there are 10 of us in the team at the moment, but we're still small. But we are a tech for good fundraising platform, and we help small businesses fundraise for charity through their sales. Hopefully perfect for your audience.
Absolutely, which is of course why I invited you on. But I'd love to know a little bit more about how you got started. So when did you realise there was a gap in the market or a need to help small businesses fundraise correctly?
Yeah, well, I can't actually take any credit for the idea at all. It came from my wonderful co-founder, Rupert Pick. And actually sort of the idea of Work for Good started back in 2016 when his little daughter was born. Now, little Lottie was born with 2 rare genetic conditions. And sadly, she had to spend the first 3 months of her life in hospital. And since she has spent many, many months in hospital, but she is a resilient little thing and absolutely adorable. Bless her. But as Roops was balancing looking after Ottie in hospital, and then also he is a very successful experiential marketing agency. He wanted to do something to give back and say thank you to Evelina London Children's Hospital for all the support and work they were doing to look after Ottie. And he was approached by a large business who wanted him to run a marketing workshop for him. And he said, that would be great, but I'm going to donate my fee that you'll give me to the Evelina London Children's Hospital, which is exactly what he did. And then sort of after he did that, he just thought, hang on a minute, well, if I can do that, surely loads of other businesses would like to do the same. And that's sort of where the genesis of Work for Good started.
Well, that's fantastic. What an amazing story and what an amazing way to give back. So I think maybe it'd be worth, I'd love to hear from your point of view, what are some of the things that small businesses aren't aware of when it comes to fundraising that Work for Good helps overcome?
For sure. So there is the 3 most feared words, the commercial participation agreement. So no, I'm not going to start with the scary bit. Sales fundraising isn't actually as difficult as it needs to be, but it is a bit complex. And the reason for it is if businesses want to raise funds for charity through their sales, which is absolutely wonderful, there just needs to be a certain agreement in place with the charity. And this is called the commercial participation agreement. And this is to protect the charity so that the business actually donates what they say they're going to fundraise to the charity, and also makes them aware of what the business is going to do for them. Sometimes charities, quite a lot of the time, charities will ask for a minimum amount that businesses will need to donate to be able to create those agreements, particularly when you're very small and you're only starting out. So, it's not possible to raise, £5,000 or £10,000. So what we have done at Work for Good is we've taken the commercial participation agreement and we have integrated it into our platform so that businesses can use our platform and donations form to create their separate agreements with the charities that they would like to support in quite literally a few clicks of the button, make sure all the legal hurdles are ticked off or jumped over, should I say, and then they can go ahead and start fundraising and start selling their products related to the charity that they're going to support.
So it takes all of the guesswork and whether or not, the charity is going to be okay with you fundraising for them and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose looking at it, I sometimes say in a little bit of a crude way, but if you wanted to run a half marathon and you wanted to run for, the Trussell Trust, you might contact them and say, I'd like to run a half marathon for you. And they'll say, that's great. Can you set up a Just Giving page or an Infuse page or one of their fundraising pages? And you say, yep, that's great. I'll go and do that. And you wouldn't think anything of it. So it's just the same that if you come with the Resilient Club and you say, I'd like to raise funds for the Trussell Club through my sales, then they would say, that's super. You can do so just through Work for Good.
Yeah, I see. Got you. Right. So it's sort of playing that role. And that's exactly it's pretty much exactly how I ended up finding out about Work for Good, was that I decided at the beginning of the year that I wanted 1% of my sales to be donated to charity, which is something that I'm working on. I thought I've got to start somewhere. I'm going to start with 1%. I want to work my way up each year, but I'm going to start with this. And I made this decision and I thought to myself, okay, I'd like to make a donation to a charity. And then I started asking myself, okay, well, how does that work? Do I just make the donation? But when I think the thing that gets sticky, if you're just making a donation, is that then it's like, well, can I talk about the fact that I'm fundraising for this charity? Could I use their logo without their permission? All of that sort of thing. And I wasn't really sure what to do. And I think I asked a question in a Facebook group, a big Facebook group, with a lot of freelancers and entrepreneurs in it. And somebody said, oh, you should go to Work for Good. So then I went to Work for Good, to the website, and it just was so easy because I didn't have to second guess whether or not the organisation or the charity was going to be happy for me to be fundraising in their name. I didn't have to worry about any of that because you're right, it is, and I can say this as someone who's, I think I've set up probably 3 or 4 now of these commercial participation agreements, which sounds very long-winded, but it's pretty much just saying, this is what I'm agreeing to do, this is how much I'm going to raise roughly. I mean, you're not held to it, but like as an estimate, the charity's got an idea, and then the time period, so this is when I'm going to pay it. And then that's it. And it's actually been really great. So, for example, I raised money for the Microloan Foundation. So I've been donating 1% of sales. One of the quarters this year, I was donating to the Microloan Foundation. One was to the Trussell. You mentioned them, the Trussell Trust. And then with the Microloan Foundation, they've been really great as well. They reached out to me. We did some Instagram lives with them. So I was running a promotion at the end of May where I said, okay, for this week only, I'm going to donate 10% of my sales and this kind of thing. And it was really great. As I said, they participated with me. So it was a partnership and have been really supportive. So I think that it does just take out that guesswork, because I didn't have to then think, okay, well, now I've got to find a charity, have a conversation with them. I just literally went through it. As I said, I just picked a charity. And I think Microloan Foundation reached out to me after I signed up, and then we had that chat. It wasn't like I had to get their permission first or anything. So it just kind of made it so completely easy. So yeah, if anyone's listening, that's why I have been saying this all along, that if you want to make those donations, it's just so easy to go through Work for Good because everything's taken care of. And then you can have a conversation with a charity and say, hey, can we do something together? Can we talk about your work? Can we talk about how my product is supporting your work and that kind of thing?
Oh, that's so super. One, thank you very much for being so kind about the work for good in our business as well. But also, yeah, Microloan Foundation are super. And I think that's, well, the feedback we get from lots of businesses is the ease of how to, find a charity that they'd like to support. And if there's a charity that isn't on the platform that actually a business would prefer to support, they just need to nominate them. And then we can go out to the charity and have that conversation. So actually taking a little bit of work away, or an extra few conversations, or waiting on emails from you as a business owner, because I am fully aware, running Work for Good, how many different directions we're all pulled in. And I think, one of the important things, and this is what I speak to charities about a lot of the time, is a bit of the education piece about what goes into running a small business and how much time and effort and resource, and how you are HR, your marketing, your sales, your IT, you're a little bit of everything. And just being able to sort of help and put the right legal agreements in place, and also the support, is actually fundamental to keep, I think, actually keep that positive intention, which has come from businesses like you've said yourself. And also, do not shy away from 1%. 1% is fabulous, really. It is really fab. And this is a really key stat, but like £1 billion would be created of charitable income every year if just 1 in 20 businesses gave 1% of their income.
Wow. Oh,
so
wow.
Think how much you're contributing to this. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. So I'd love to talk a little bit about, I just want to say actually one more thing. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it sort of slightly takes a little bit of getting your head around that any charity wouldn't want you to be fundraising for them. So I think that's one of the things sometimes people say, well, of course, if I raise money for a charity, the charity would be delighted to have it. But I suppose it's worth just saying, from the charity's point of view, they've just got to be a little bit careful, especially I suppose some of the big charities presumably have big commercial participation agreements with big organisations. So they may have to be a little careful about who they also make agreements with. I don't know if that's true or not, but I suppose it's worth, if someone's listening and thinking, I can't believe a charity would mind if I raise money for them, it's not really about that, is it? It's about just making sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, and it's a really smart, very clear observation as well. And it's something that, it does seem a little bit bonkers that you want to raise money for charity and they might say no. But at the end of the day, when we look at it from a commercial perspective, there is a commercial gain of raising money for charity, because obviously to be able to sell your products, it's helpful to say, I'm raising money for X charity. And then perhaps the consumer will buy your product over someone else who's created pretty much the same product, but isn't donating to a charity. Also, when you look at the sort of the larger partnerships, so particularly any size charity really, but if they've got perhaps a big brand supermarket or insurance company, they do have very specific partnership requirements, and it's a two-way, very much a two-way partnership here as well. I think with Work for Good and with sales giving in particular, in sort of not necessarily just smaller amounts, but with less of a, what's the best way of saying, sort of granular partnership. I like to call them kind of a bit of a supportership, really, because as individuals we support charities, and as businesses you're supporting the charity. It's great to have those conversations with like Microloan Foundation, as you have said, and you've done some extra social media with them. But sometimes that's not possible, not necessarily just from the charity, but for you, perhaps. You might not have the time to do those extra promotions with them.
I think that brings me on to the next point, which I'd love to hear your thoughts on, which is about the importance then. You mentioned that there is that commercial element that it can be used almost as a selling tool. So I'd love to explore that a little bit more. So if you're listening to this and you're a small business, what would be some of the reasons that you would want to think about charitable giving as part of your strategy, really?
It's something that we really encourage businesses to think about a lot. I expect the types of businesses who listen to your lovely podcast are very purposeful anyway, and they're probably way ahead of the game. But even if perhaps charitable giving hasn't been thought about, it's a really good way to demonstrate your purpose and what your business is about to your customers or clients as well. Particularly with a lot of product businesses, as I said before, there are millions of product businesses. In fact, I was listening to something recently, and I know on Etsy there are 80 million different products on sale at any one time. That is bonkers. So, how are you going to set yourself apart from those 80 million products, apart from having amazing products? But one way can be to actually, give back, say that you're being able to talk about supporting a charity, but also making it quite a tangible way of giving. And I think it's all part of your story. Why would you give? I suppose, Catherine, I would ask you, why did you choose the Microloan Foundation? What was it? Was it a personal reason? Was it to do with your business?
Well, I think for me, Microloan Foundation seemed like a really nice fit because they support female entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa, for example. So it felt like, given that I work with a lot of, not exclusively female entrepreneurs by any stretch of the imagination, but I work with a lot of female entrepreneurs. And so it felt like a nice symmetry to say, okay, so my work with people most predominantly in the UK is helping support other entrepreneurs in other parts of the world who are in completely different circumstances, running very different kind of businesses. But yeah, it just seemed to fit well with the business.
Absolutely. And giving is so personal as well. There is a very clear commercial element, but particularly for sole traders and those who are running their businesses just by themselves, remember, it's your business, it's your individual business, and there's no reason why you shouldn't put the cause you care about at the heart of it and then promote it. So then that means marketing it. And there is obviously a commercial value to talking about your purpose, their business, and what you're doing.
And do you think that the customer is getting more interested, more attuned, more expectant even of a business to have a purpose and that charitable donations may be part of?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's absolutely wonderful, and it's very exciting. It's actually a really exciting time to be a business who cares. People expect businesses to do better. They expect them to do good. People want to buy from and work for businesses that are putting purpose at the heart of what they're doing. I could recite many stats to you about sort of consumers that choose businesses that are putting purpose at the heart of their brand. But there's one recently that we're reading from Business and Community that 74% of consumers would switch brands to a business that is led by their purpose.
Wow.
And I think that is really, really key. And it's just exciting. People want to do a lot better, and both socially and environmentally. And it's a time where we together, and particularly with COVID, it's not just the government that was saying shop local, shop small, support your local community, but society was echoing that as well. And it's almost a bit, I love the word used, expectant. I think perhaps we're not quite there yet, but maybe 5 years' time, people will expect businesses to be doing a lot better than they are.
So if you're somebody who's already adopted that ethos and made it part of your business strategy or the heart of your business, then that's already appealing to those people who already are used. Well, I mean, 74%, that's a huge statistic, but then also almost slightly future-proofing the business too, would you say?
Yeah, I would, absolutely. And I think coming back to charitable giving as well, 43% of charitable income comes from individuals, but only 2% comes from businesses.
Oh, wow.
Which is, it's a pretty hard-hitting fact. But, at Work for Good, one of our missions is to really try and move that needle and really because the small business audience and the small business network is amazing in the community. It's an amazing place to be. And I know that we as a collective can do so much better, but it's just trying to have the right, I suppose, the tools, the support, the time to be able to do so. And that's crucial.
So I have a very practical question for you, because this is something that I get asked and I would love to hear your thoughts on it. And that is, sometimes people say to me, is there a more effective message? Is one type of message more effective than another? So, for example, there are different ways of looking at your charitable giving. You can say, I will give a percentage of sales, or I will give £3 for every item that's bought, or there are even the buy one, give one models, where people donate enough to, I mean, Tom's shoes is the one that everyone always thinks of, where when you buy a pair of Tom's shoes, they donate another pair. or it's percentage of profit, or I mean, there's all kinds of different ways of doing it. Do you think there's one particular type that's easier for customers to sort of hook onto, or is it really very individual to the individual business?
At Work for Good, we encourage businesses to give through their sales because it is a sustainable way to give back. I.e., if you make a sale, you will be able to make a donation. Some businesses do try and donate through their profits. However, firstly, it's actually not encouraged by the charities in general and charity law. The reason we and the charity law recommend sales is because profits do not always come.
Right.
Like, not everyone, majority of businesses will know it's quite difficult to make a profit. And sometimes if you've pledged perhaps at the beginning of the year that I'm going to give 5% of my profits at the end of the year, and actually at the end of the year you haven't made any profits, which is completely understandable. It sometimes takes 5 to 10 years for a business to make any profits. That's fine, that's just business. But then that charity will actually lose out. But you have had the commercial value of saying you're supporting the charity, but at the end of it, nothing will be coming through for them.
Right.
Which is why it's recommended to base on sales. But I think you can do this in quite smart ways. It could be either a percentage, it could be £1, it could be a 1 for a 1. And that's quite nice. But then thinking about the messaging to customers as well. So we've had a company on the platform relatively recently who donated 1 meal for every meal that they sold,
right?
But it was the equivalent costing of the meal. Or someone might say they'll plant 1 tree for every bouquet that's sold, something like that. And actually you can think of quite tangible ways to weigh that up.
But then you don't have to actually necessarily do it, but maybe you donate enough to that charity to plant the tree or that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. There is one kind of stipulation with a commercial participation agreement, which is probably worth just mentioning, is when that is set up, it's really important at point of sale to add what is called a commercial participation statement. So it's a business telling their customer that they will be raising money for the charity. And it's got to be at point of sale, a point of transaction. So, and the idea of that is, and this gets a little bit complex, but it's to do with the vulnerability of consumers, actually, to make sure that the customer knows that a portion of their spending will be going to a charity.
Right.
But that's something we help with on Work for Good, and we create the statement for you. So you can just literally copy and paste it and put it on your website or on the product or wherever your point of transaction is.
Yeah, I have to say, and as I said, having used the platform, it is extremely easy to use. So if anyone's listening, go have a look, because it really is. It's really easy. And also, I should say as well, you've got a lot of charities to choose from, and you can choose by type of charity, location, size of the charity. It's really extensive. There's a lot of options on there for people who want to make a donation. And as you said, you can even nominate your own, which is fantastic. So just to wrap things up then, I just wondered if you had any tips. So if anyone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, all right, Catherine and Veronica, I'm gonna take you at your word. I want to do this. I want to make a charitable giving part of my strategy, or I want to at least dabble in it. Do you have any tips for getting started?
Yeah, totally. Number 1, get started.
Okay.
My biggest advice is don't wait to become profitable, because you might be waiting a long time. And it's looking at that commercial advantage of being able to give back, and it's the right thing to do, and it's a good thing to do. And it will make you feel good. It will make your customers feel good, and the charities will be absolutely delighted. One of the questions we get asked quite a lot is, well, how much should we give? What is right? Is 1%? Is 2%? Does it have to be 10%? We've had conversations with businesses saying, oh, I'm donating 10%, but I think it's too much and it's not really working with my business model. That doesn't matter. It's entirely down to you how much you give as a business. And you shouldn't be embarrassed or afraid to change that. And you can change that on a regular basis. Maybe perhaps one month you have a really successful month and you want to give a bit more. Or you do a one-off campaign. So you could, for example, like yourself, with 1% on a regular basis, and then perhaps you take part in our Christmas campaign, for example, and you decide on one weekend in December you're going to donate 5% instead of the 1%.
Yeah.
So it can be changeable, and I think that's what's quite exciting about being able to do it through sort of a digital fundraising platform as well, and not have to speak to the charity every time you want to change that up.
Yeah.
Because as we all know, being online, you can change things very quickly, and then you can change your marketing, and then you can change your marketing messages. But yeah, my biggest advice would be just get started. Think about the types of charities that you would like to support, which ones mean something to you as a business and your business, and what is your business story, and then which ones you think your customers would also like to support you with.
And no amount is too small, right?
Absolutely no amount is too small. It's, that age-old every penny helps. It really does help. Every single penny helps a charity. And I think what's quite exciting as a business, as we know, we have good months, we have bad months, they always fluctuate. But we have a saying at Work for Good of give as you grow. And as a business grows, so will your donations. So when you make more sales, your donations will go up. And if they go down, that's also okay as well. But no donation is too small. No donation is too big either. And if it's too
out there.
and if it's too big, the charity might want to have a further conversation with you. We do have some businesses that support charities over a long period of time, and then charities do want to have that further conversation and say, oh, can we do something more with you perhaps?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really exciting for both the business and charity.
Well, do you want to finish up by telling us a little bit about your Christmas campaign?
Sure, yes, that would be lovely. So we are currently running the Small Business Star Christmas campaign. And what that is just encouraging businesses to get involved and create a sales fundraising campaign in the lead up to Christmas. As we all know, Christmas is when sales peak, particularly for product businesses. And there's never any better time to give back to charity as well. And we are offering also a match funding pot. So we're matching up to £250 per business. So if a business raises their funds and then pays it through their Work for Good account on the 6th of December from 9 a.m. in the morning, we will be matching up to £250 per business whilst the pot remains. And we've got loads of resources, videos, assets, social media templates, direct mail templates, everything all over on the website. And it's just quite a nice thing to get businesses involved in. Also, we've got hundreds of charities taking part, and also just to let you all know that you're taking part in a Christmas campaign.
Fantastic. So actually this podcast episode is going to be going out on Thanksgiving Day, which is in a couple of weeks, and of course the day before the infamous Black Friday. So if anyone's listening and thinks to themselves, do you know what, rather than doing a discount, I think I'm going to do a charitable donation for the weekend, you can set that up. If you're listening to it on Thursday, you want to get it live on Friday, it only takes a few minutes on the Work for Good platform, so you can jump on and be part of the Christmas Stars campaign. Why not?
I think that is a fabulous suggestion. And I listened to a wonderful Black Friday podcast the other day. So I would listen to Catherine's Black Friday podcast. She didn't ask me to say this. And then, it's a nice way. And someone told us recently, it's like, well, we don't say Black Friday, we use Green Friday. Mm-hmm. And that's also, for very sustainable businesses, that's a really nice way of giving back. Yeah. So could you use Green Friday, use it for the weekend and Cyber Monday, obviously, and then donate to charity following that.
Sounds fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And do you want to just tell everyone where they can find you?
Yes, well, thank you so much again for having me. And if anyone would like to have a look at Work for Good, they can go to the website, and it's just www.workforgood.co.uk. And also, if you have any questions, as I said before, we're a small business. It's myself and only a few others. We are a tech platform, but we're very much human behind it. So just drop us an email and we'll be happy to get in touch, and follow us on social media, and we'll follow you back. We love championing small businesses. So let us know what product you're selling, whatever you do, and we'll make sure that we engage with you.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did, and happy Thanksgiving once again if you're listening on the day that the podcast is released. I would love it if you come over to see me on Instagram at Resilient Retail Club. and say hello and let me know what you're planning on doing. Have you thought about charitable donations as part of your sales? Is it something that you've tried before? What were your thoughts after today's episode? Is it something you might try in the future? And of course, if you have a moment and you're on iTunes, you can rate and review the podcast. I absolutely appreciate everybody who takes the time to do so, and it just helps me get the podcast out in front of more people. And of course, if you hit the subscribe button, you'll be the first to know about each new episode as it's released each week. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.